Welcome to episode 2 to Baseball Alberta's Lunch and Learn series. Let's host a provincial championship. Thank you for taking the time to learn more. And thank you for being a champion in your community for baseball. The sport volunteer, as we always say it, is the most important person in the Canadian sport delivery system. And we are here to support you in those endeavors. Also, thank you for providing feedback at episode 1. We hear you. The time you take to provide feedback will enhance our deliveries going forward. And special thanks to Liam Fremont and our media person in the Baseball Alberta office. We couldn't do these without you. Thank you for your guidance and leadership on this project. Today we have Brendan Smith, League Manager for Baseball Alberta. Thank you, Brendan, for being with us today and taking time out of your busy, hectic league season schedule. Now, the structure for the lunch and learn is 15 to 20 minutes of content and then a question answer. Please provide your questions in the chat. I'll be moderating the chat as we go. We are going to, be respectful of everybody's time and adhere to the schedule strictly. But after that, if you do have questions and we didn't get to your question, or there's questions down the road that you have, please reach out to me by email. And of course, the session will be available to you via our website, on our YouTube channel, as well as a podcast. So when you're headed to the yard, feel free to put it on the drive. So without further housekeeping, let's get into it. Brendan, welcome.
Thank you, Aaron.
So Brendan, what would be the first step if a community or association are interested in hosting a provincial tournament? What would you suggest the first thing they do?
First step is definitely go through the application process on our website under tournaments and provincials. We have a form for the host application form. That provincials page outlines all the expectations of the host, all the expectations of Baseball Alberta, and you'll be able to submit your application for hosting provincials there.
Great. And further information, if is there literature that I can read regarding a hosting? Where would I go find that information, kind of like the point-by-point line items on being a host?
Yeah, so we have a provincial host FAQ available in that same spot on our website as well. It's also, all the information is in the handbook, as well as templates for our provincial schedules are in the handbook as well. We do the scheduling for provincials, but it's all based on the same templates depending on the number of teams in each tier there are, so you can get an idea of what the schedule will look like, so that you know that for diamond bookings and stuff like that.
Great. So for everybody's information, it's actually on page 73, and we're just going to share my screen with everybody to see. So right here on page 73, it goes over, the host application and requirements, what everybody's responsible for, what is provided by Baseball Alberta, and what the host team needs to consider. So it's a little bit of reading for everybody, but it's a really good resource for everybody considering to be a championship host. So yeah, let's move on. If we do apply to be an association does apply to be a host, when will we know if our hosting application is successful?
So it depends on your tier and age category and division of play. We're already looking at trying to get all the AAA hosts assigned basically as soon as possible. Of course, they're standings dependent, so if we have a team on the bubble between two tiers, it's sometimes difficult to confirm host duties, but we're going to be reaching out to all teams hopefully within the next couple of weeks, and who have successfully applied, and you'll get an email from me sort of outlining what you've been accepted to host, what tier that is, and please get back to us if you are confirming your interest in it. And the plan was to do it a bit earlier this year, but with all the cancellations we've had with weather and stuff, and the standings being more likely to change over the course of the next week or so. We're gonna have to do it within the next couple of weeks. So you can expect, if you've put in a host application, if you are successful, to hear from us in the next couple of weeks for sure.
Okay, great, thanks. So if I'm thinking about doing this, like the volunteers is really a big thing. What would be like the volunteer bare bones requirements? How many people are going to need, or what would you suggest if I'm considering to host?
So again, depends if you have a 1 diamond or a 2 diamond event. Any tiers that have 8 or more teams in them would be a 2 diamond event. That's another thing we take into consideration. Usually our tier 1 tournaments across the board are 8 teams, and then everything other than that just depends on the number of teams we have in each division. So for volunteers, you're going to need the same volunteers as if you were doing a normal league host weekend, as far as scorekeeping and pitch count and concessions and all that stuff. But then on top of that, you'll also need volunteers to sit on a protest committee. I believe you need 3 of them, and they can't be people on a team, but they are allowed to be, parents of your team. They just have to be neutral and able to handle any protests that might arise. Now, I will probably jinx everything by saying this, but we usually get 0 to 1 protests across all of our provincial championships every year. So it's usually not something that turns out to be a big issue, but that is another area that you'll need to have volunteers for.
Great. Well, good to be prepared anyways.
Yeah.
So if I'm an organizer, thanks for the info. If I'm an organizer and I'm selling this to our parents and are selling this to our association, what are the benefits, to our association for hosting a provincial championship?
One of the biggest benefits that I think of anyways, and this is my opinion, is that you don't have to travel to wherever the provincials are held. And sometimes that ends up being the town next to you, so it's not a big deal. But sometimes it ends up being somewhere that's 8 hours away from you, because it can literally be anywhere in the province. So I would say that's a definite benefit. Some people, love to travel and would rather do that every weekend instead, and that's fine. But for me, the biggest benefit is that you don't have to travel to wherever it is. And obviously there's work that comes with that, but that's to me the biggest benefit.
And is there an opportunity to be profitable if it's ran correctly? In terms of budget, if we do a good job with the organizing, is there opportunity to make money in our association hosting a provincial championship?
Well, I would say that would not be a strong motivator, because I don't know. I've never heard of anyone, coming back and talking about profits they've made. We don't allow associations or teams to charge gate fees for our provincial championships at all. However, I know some associations have applied with AGLC and done 50-50 raffles, or have, they have their concessions going and can get food trucks and stuff like that in. And so I would say, I would not, be talking in good faith coming out here and telling you that this is like a great business opportunity for like your association or your team. But I do think there are ways that you can go about fundraising for the event so that it's possible.
Great. So, those are the benefits. So where do you think that sometimes associations go wrong when stepping up to be a host? I know we talk about the good, but we have to sometimes talk about the bad, and how do we mitigate those risks and alleviate those concerns in the future?
I would say for me, I've rarely had a big complaint about somebody who has actually hosted. But for me, the thing that we don't like to see are the conditional hosting applications. The people who email and say, "Oh, hey, Brendan, we're just wondering who put into host, because if it's somewhere far away, then we're interested in hosting, so we don't have to go. But otherwise, we don't want to host. We don't disclose who's put in applications to host, and we would much rather give a host to an association who's excited to do so and wanting to do so unconditionally. So that's something that I would say. And we also don't accept when we release our host applications and then all of a sudden the team goes, oh, well, we're actually a much more central team, so we'll host. Well, no, it's too late. You had your chance to put in the host application and you didn't.
Okay, good
So
to know.
yeah, as far as at the diamond on the field, just the most important things are communication. Just constantly being in communication with the teams before, during, and a little bit after the tournament, just to make sure everybody has the information that they need. And we'll do our best to help on that end of things as well with schedules and stuff. But I would say as long as you're communicating with everyone, and if a major issue arises, you give us a call, because we will be available by phone during the provincial weekend.
Okay.
And you're doing a great job.
Awesome. So obviously no games. So, who takes care of the officials, and what do we need to provide for them for a good experience for all?
So Baseball Alberta assigns all the officials for every provincial championship. Those are done by our umpire committee. Baseball Alberta also covers mileage and travel costs for umpires for provincial championships. The only thing that teams pay for are the regular game fees, and those are split by all teams at the tournament, just like it would be for a normal host weekend. There is a page on that section in our handbook about the best practices for umpire payments during provincial championships. I believe the recommendation is that you collect your round robin game fees up front for all the umpires, and then once it's determined who's going into the playoffs, you collect your game fees for each game after that from the teams participating in the semifinals and finals, or depending on tiebreaker games or whoever is participating.
Okay, great. Awesome. We're getting down to the last couple minutes of our content. So everyone on the call can start thinking about questions that we would have for Brandon and populating them into the chat. Brandon, when it comes to, the rules and things like that, are there different rules when it comes to provincials rather than regular league play?
There are some. The pitch counts are increased slightly for provincial championship play. I believe most thresholds are increased by about 5 pitches across all age categories. We have a tool that we developed called the pitch count tracker, specifically for provincial championships, that teams can take advantage of during the provincials weekend. It's something I would check out in advance, because it might take you, half an hour to go through it and figure it all out. But at the end of the day, you can type in a pitcher's name, you type in the number of pitches he throws each day, and then it will light up whether they're good to pitch on any given day after that. So that's a pretty useful tool. The other rule that is different, so in league play, if you're playing a game and it gets rained out and you decide to play that game again at a later date, it would be started from the beginning. But in provincial championship play, once a game is stopped, wherever it's stopped, when you start up again, whenever on that weekend, it resumes from where it left off. So that's a difference for provincial championships as well.
Okay, great. So one more question for you, but before we get to our Q&A, and again, thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule, Brendan. I'm sure you're one of the busiest guys in the province when it comes to baseball during league play. So I just want to say thank you so much for joining us before we get to the Q&A. What else does Baseball Alberta provide? Does Baseball Alberta provide, baseballs, trophies, in regards to delivering a tournament?
Yes, to both those things. So we provide a maximum of 24 baseballs. That's basically what we are given from Rawlings that we are able to provide to each tournament before we run out on our end. So that we provide that. We do provide medals for the gold and silver medals for every tournament, and we provide a championship trophy. We also provide an MVP award, which is given out to a player on the winning team. And then again, we cover our umpire travel costs as well.
Great. Awesome. I think we're ready for our question and answer. They're starting to come in. Don't be afraid to send them to me directly, or if you want to send them to everyone inside the chat, I'm happy to get to them. So one question right now, Brennan, we got, is it frowned upon to get teams to help with scorekeeping and pitch count for the games that they are playing to cut down on volunteer hours for the host team?
Yes, that is frowned upon, I would say. When you're volunteering to host a provincial championship, the expectation is that the host team takes on those responsibilities, because all those teams traveling, that's their responsibility. You are always able to send out an email requesting assistance and asking if anybody is able to volunteer, but you cannot require that of anybody if you are hosting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. That's the kind of the trade-off, right? The cost and the expense and time of traveling versus hosting. It's a good trade-off. It works well within our associations, and certainly appreciated by all teams. So, a really good question, actually. Management previously hosted a provincial championship, and we're just curious about differences in expectations when we considered the different age groups or levels. We previously hosted a 15U and we applied to host an 18U. What are the different expectations around different age groups?
I would actually say there isn't. I would say between 15U and 18U, the expectations would be the exact same. Okay. Yeah, on our end, we don't have a different expectation for our age groups across the leagues.
Okay. Where do we find the pitch count tracker that you spoke of earlier?
Yeah, it's right on our website, I believe, under, do you want to just pull up the website, yep. Aaron?
Yeah, 1 second here.
So I believe it's under tournaments. And then if you just hover over provincial championships, yeah, right at the bottom there's pitch count tracker, as well as a tiebreaker calculator, which is the second most common phone call that I would receive over the course of the weekend. 2 teams or 3 teams are tied. We need to figure out which teams have to play in the tiebreaker game. This tiebreaker calculator helps you figure out exactly who would be doing that.
So what you're saying is I don't need to be a mathlete to host the provincial championships when it comes to tiebreaker.
Correct. Yes. The tiebreaker calculator should help you. Again, you're welcome to call, but that tiebreaker calculator, you should just be able to enter the information, and it will give you the tie-breaking score of each team, and they'll be ranked according to that score. And then you'll know who plays in the tiebreaker game.
Great.
Or who wins the tiebreaker, because there's different scenarios depending on how many teams are in your tournament.
And our pitch count tracker is here. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, well done.
Yeah,
great.
So that pitch count tracker, again, you're going to probably want to take a little bit of time before the tournament, go through it and make sure that it's, working well for you before you get to a situation during the weekend where you're like, I don't know what I'm doing with this. Right. And again, I just want to reiterate, this is using the provincials pitch counts. So this would not work for your league play games.
Okay.
Because it's different numbers. Yeah.
Great. When it comes to pitch count, something that I've been a part of when it comes to provincial championship, is it good to have a master posted pitch count area somewhere at the facility?
100% yes. I think I've been to several provincial championships, and I think it's always been helpful to have like a big poster board for each team with their pitchers who have pitched and how many pitches they have thrown according to the official scorekeepers. That way, there's just no confusion, and a coach can't, be shocked to learn that a pitcher is not eligible to pitch if because he thought they only threw this many pitches, but the scorekeeper has, that they've thrown a different number of pitches, which again, the official scorekeeper is what we go with. That's another thing to clarify as well.
Great.
Yeah.
So I don't see any more questions. If somebody can and if you have another question, feel free to put it into the chat and we'll get to it. But I do believe that, hosting a provincial championship is great for an association. It's a wonderful celebration of your year. It's always great to showcase, your community and bring people together. Us at Baseball Alberta want to support you in that as much as we can. We have great people available to answer your questions going forward. Brennan, I don't think there's any more questions in the chat. Maybe we'll get some more in the coming days. To everybody that's attended, and Brendan, thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today. We're going to send out a feedback survey. Please commit a little bit of time to do it. It won't take you more than 5 minutes, but we'll be able to enhance our delivery of these going forward. And thank you for everybody for attending episode 2. Let's host the provincial championship. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.